Hello everyone, welcome to BeginnersC Lesson. This is going to be lesson number 3, and we're going to be talking today about soft debugging. If you haven't already done the homework from lesson number 1, you should probably do it now because this lesson's going to totally spoil it. So we're going to jump right back into this, and the first thing we're going to talk about is something that you guys have probably all noticed so far, and it's why do I name my variables so weird? So from the first sort of video, we had int user value equals 0 was one of the lines of code. And as you can see, I have this user with lowercase u and then value with an uppercase V. And it kind of doesn't make sense for the first time looking at it. And the reasoning behind that is because in programming, you get into some longer words sometime. So we might get into like price of items purchased. And if that's all lowercase, that makes no sense to anybody at a glance. So for the sake of readability, some person basically decided that it would be easier to read like that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it's a little difficult. Now, that is just one of the, sort of things I wanted to talk about. This is known as camel casing, or camelback notation, as some people call it. That's probably the most widespread sort of thing. There is another one called Hungarian notation where I'd call it I user value, like that. Or you could have an uppercase U if you really wanted to. And the I just shows what type it is, so the person doesn't have to go back and look. That's also out there as well. Now that I've spent 2 minutes talking about naming our variables, let's go on to do something with them. So as you can see, whenever I create a variable, I almost always set it equal to 0. That's called initialization, which means that we set an initial value for our variable. And the reason why this is important is because if we don't do that, we do this. What do you think is going to come up here? The answer is a runtime failure. And if you look down here where it says locals on your screen, and if you don't have locals, there is some way to get it. I think it's under view, but you have to be debugging at the time. So the only way to get out of this is to say break, and then you have to come up here and manually close this. Then you have to hit continue and it will exit. So I don't recommend doing that, by the way. And that's why we set it equal to 0, because now, assuming I have a cin down here that's supposed to get it, even if I don't, it outputs 0, and then I go, oh, well, that makes no sense why it's 0, but at least I know I didn't break my program. So that's initializing variables. Now, let's do a quick little setup here. We're going to cout, and we're going to say, enter a value for user value. Oops, I forgot my closing quotation mark. Cin user value. Cout user value equals, and then okay, user value. By the way, those things that are popping up when I type like that, don't worry about those. Those are just trying to give me a hint on what I should use there. Okay, we'll add an indel here. Oops. Okay, so we're going to give this a run. And as you can see, it says enter value for user value. I enter 15, it outputs 15. Cool. Or well, it outputs user value equals 15. Awesome. So now I'm going to show you guys some really common issues that arise. And because I want you to see right here an error list, there will be a list of errors that come up and kind of how you can go ahead and try to figure out what's going on for yourself. So let's remove this semicolon right here. So we remove that, and it tells us there were build errors. Would you like to continue and run the last successful build? No. So when we run it, it says syntax error, missing identifier before, missing semicolon before identifier CN. And it also tells us that it's on line number 10. So assuming we're way down here, if we double click this, it brings us right to line number 10, and it puts a little tick on the line for us, so we know exactly where to look. So the reason I began by showing this is because this is sort of misleading. It's telling us to look at line number 10, but line number 10 is fine. So generally, when you see something about a missing semicolon, you always want to look at the line before it. Another really common issue that I see among beginners is they want to do something like this. Let's say they have user value equals 40, right? Just like that. Well, what happens if they don't put in an int and they try to run that? Well, tells us that there's errors, and it says undeclared identifier on line number 8 and 10 and 12 because that's all the different times we use it. So when we look at this, you know, we kind of want to look at the top or the first time it's used, and it says undeclared identifier. And we look at this line, and so we know there's an issue with how we declared our variable. So when we type in int, hey, it's fixed, because every variable needs a type, a name, and some kind of a value before you use it. And technically, you can leave this without a value and then do user value here, but I prefer not to. So there's that. Now, the only other thing that I really wanted to mention here is that there is a method of hard debugging. This is what's known as soft debugging. We can see the values when we use couts like this. This is known as soft debugging because we're redisplaying our value for only the purpose of, you know, looking at it. Now, hard debugging we'll probably get into around lesson 8 or 9, and that's going to be a lot more in-depth and using the debugger. So if you guys are looking for a lesson that's more like that, it does take a little bit more time, but it will get you your answer. Alright, I'm going to leave this lesson fairly short. I don't see much use in dragging this one on, so if you guys have any questions about this sort of soft debugging, feel free. Just as one other thing, you'll notice that for every lesson, I'm using lesson number 1. If you guys want to make a new project for each one, you can just go to New Project, Lesson 2, and when you do that, and it brings up the wizard, remember to uncheck precompiled header, or else you're going to have a really hard time. Alright, so that's just about done it. Like, share, favorite, post on the forums, etc. Lesson number 2 doesn't have any homework. All I can say is, you know, practice using cin and cout. Actually, you know what? Since I'm here, no, I can't do it. I already said bye. Bye.